Welcome to Tactical Command USA. Today, we analyze a masterful use of area denial. Please subscribe for more strategic analysis.
Observers noted a significant column, hundreds of units, approaching this single crossing.
A high-risk maneuver.
Defending blue forces monitored the advance, allowing the column to commit fully to the crossing.
The strategy depended on waiting until the crossing was at maximum capacity, isolating the lead elements.
Then, the event. Precisely targeted structural failures rendered the bridge impassable in seconds.
This action effectively halted the entire advance, dividing the red force column instantly.
This created what strategists call a denied crossing. The lead elements were cut off from their support.
This tactic mirrors U.S. Navy doctrine. Controlling key choke points is essential to maritime and land-based security.
Whether on water or land, the objective is to disrupt the adversary's logistics and operational timing.
The operation highlights a major intelligence gap for the advancing column, who underestimated the defenders' preparation.
It was a textbook execution of asymmetric defense, using prepared positions to neutralize a superior advancing force.
The lessons here are clear. For more in-depth tactical breakdowns, be sure to subscribe to Tactical Command USA.
Now let's analyze the lead elements. Cut off from support, their primary objective is immediately rendered unachievable.
They are now a compromised force, deep in contested territory, without a supply line or a path for retreat.
Blue forces, having prepared for this exact scenario, initiated containment procedures on the isolated units.
The stranded column was subjected to precise, pre-registered indirect fire, halting any further organized movement.
Simultaneously, the main support column was in disarray, creating a massive logistical bottleneck.
This single event didn't just stop one column. It severed the primary supply artery for the entire sector.
The U.S. Navy calls this logistics over the shore. Without this link, the most powerful fleet is ineffective. The same applies here.
The red column's immediate problem: they lack the organic engineering assets to force an alternate crossing quickly.
A wet gap crossing under fire is one of the most complex operations. The Red Force was unprepared for it.
Red Command likely assumed the bridge was secure, a critical failure in their pre-operation intelligence gathering.
NATO doctrine, heavily influenced by U.S. principles, relies on persistent I-star to map threats before committing forces.
This bridge acted exactly like a maritime choke point. The U.S. Navy trains constantly.
Naval area denial, using mines or anti-ship assets, achieves the same result. It stops movement without necessarily engaging every target.
This bridge operation was a masterful use of land-based area denial, neutralizing a 500-vehicle column with one action.
The psychological impact is also significant. It forces a complete operational pause and a reassessment of the entire campaign.
The Red Force has lost all operational tempo. The initiative has now completely shifted to the Blue Force defenders.
This event was not random. It required highly trained units to gain access to the structure and place charges precisely.
The key was patience. The blue observers had to wait for the maximum number of units to be on the bridge before acting.
This mirrors U.S. Navy rules of engagement. Wait for positive ID, assess the tactical situation, and only act when the criteria are met. Logistically, this route is now closed for weeks, if not months. The Red Force must find alternate, less efficient supply lines.
This forces their logistics onto soft-skinned transports over difficult terrain, increasing fuel use and maintenance problems.
In naval terms, this is a mission kill. The column wasn't stopped unit by unit. Its purpose was neutralized. Another critical failure was the lack of red air superiority. A column this large should have had a dedicated air cap. U.S. Combined Arms Doctrine mandates that ground maneuvers are integrated with air support to protect against just such a scenario.
This event was likely the finale of shaping operations, actions taken to funnel the Red Force into this specific prepared trap.
This is naval doctrine.
Use submarines or aircraft to shape the battle space, forcing the enemy fleet where you want them.
The column's composition itself was a liability, mixing high-value fuel and ammo trucks with frontline units.
This creates a cascading failure. A single immobilized supply truck can halt an entire armored spearhead.
This is the definition of asymmetric strategy, a low-cost, high-impact action that bypasses the enemy's conventional strength.
Modern U.S. Navy platforms like the LCS are built for this, to apply asymmetric force flexibly, rather than win a direct slugfest.
The sensor-to-shooter loop for the Blue Force was incredibly tight. They saw, they decided, and they acted decisively.
This suggests a rigid Red Force command, one unable to adapt when the initial plan failed spectacularly.
U.S. and NATO forces practice mission command, empowering junior leaders to adapt and seize opportunities, which was absent here.
The Red Force violated a cardinal rule of war chair, taught at every U.S. military academy. Amateurs talk tactics, professionals study logistics.
A U.S. carrier strike group is the ultimate expression of this. Its power isn't just the jets, it's the logistical chain that allows it to operate anywhere.
The key lesson? Modern defense is about precision. It's about using intelligence to neutralize an adversary's center of gravity.
This operation will be studied for years as a textbook example of how a prepared defender can defeat a superior-sized invading force.
Understanding these doctrines is key to understanding modern conflict. If you value this analysis, please subscribe to Tactical Command USA.
Now, let's examine the fate of the Vanguard. Their offensive mission is over. This has become an operation for survival.
They are cut off with only the fuel, ammunition, and supplies they carried. Resupply is impossible.
Blue Forces immediately established a cordon, a containment pocket to prevent any breakout or exfiltration.
The next phase is psychological, pressuring the isolated force, highlighting their hopeless position to encourage surrender.
U.S. Doctrine integrates PSYOPs and information warfare directly with combat operations to reduce an enemy's will to fight.
On the eastern bank, the main column's engineering units are now stuck in the very congestion they were sent to solve.
This logistical paralysis presents a secondary opportunity for Blue Forces. The entire column is now a static target.
Standoff systems, like guided artillery or rockets, can now engage high-value targets in this column from outside Red's counter-battery range.
Red Team's delayed spread-out move worsens their position. Vehicles bogged down off-road, still fully visible from above.
This is interdiction. Blue Forces are not trying to stop the whole column. They are surgically removing its most critical components. This is only possible with persistent surveillance. Drones are feeding real-time targeting data to the strike assets.
This is the U.S. Navy's cooperative engagement capability. The E-2 Hawkeye acts as the sensor that guides the shooters in the fleet.
The Red Force's electronic warfare assets were either absent or ineffective, failing to blind the Blue Force's sensors.
U.S. Doctrine treats the electromagnetic spectrum as a warfighting domain. Assets like the Growler are designed to dominate it. What we are witnessing is a complete, multi-domain failure for the Red Force, all stemming from one critical miscalculation.
The physical event is over. Now the information war begins. Blue Force will use this footage to demonstrate Red's incompetence. Controlling the narrative demoralizes the adversary and strengthens international support for the Blue Force's cause.
This is naval presence. A U.S. destroyer sailing in a contested sea is a physical act of information warfare.
For the Red soldiers in this pocket, the strategic failure is now a personal crisis, a complete abandonment by their command.
The Red command structure must now account for this. Such a public failure often leads to purges and a loss of trust in leadership.
The U.S. military's after-action review process is designed to find and fix the procedural flaw, not just the person who failed.
This failure isn't isolated. Other Red offensives that depended on this column's success must now halt and reassess.
The Blue Force has bought themselves time. Time to reinforce, time to refit, and time to plan their own countermoves.
This is why the U.S. Navy forward deploys assets. It's about controlling tempo and denying an adversary the time to act.
By removing the bridge, Blue Force has weaponized the river itself. They've turned geography into a defensive asset.
This is a core concept of littoral warfare, a U.S. Navy and Marine specialty, controlling the complex terrain where land and water meet.
The Red Force's only option now is a massive reroute, costing days of time and enormous amounts of fuel.
The cost of this one failed crossing is not just 500 vehicles. It's the loss of an entire offensive. And
this was a victory of intelligence over numbers, of preparation over mass, a true asymmetric win.
Note the flexibility of the Blue Force. They executed a complex demolition and immediately transitioned to containing the fallout.
U.S. Navy platforms like the Arleigh Burke destroyer are built for this, to be multi-mission, able to shift from air defense to land attack instantly.
The Red Column now suffers from sunken cost. Their command is likely paralyzed, unwilling to accept the loss and order a full retreat.
In this Red Force system, military failure is political failure. The commanders responsible are likely facing severe repercussions.
It always comes back to logistics. The U.S. military is a global power not because it can fight, but because it can supply the fight anywhere.
Whether it's a bridge, a strait, or a mountain pass, controlling choke points is the key to strategic maneuver.
The U.S. Navy's #1 day-to-day mission is ensuring these global economic choke points remain open and secure.
This was a victory of patience, precision, and exploiting an adversary's critical vulnerability.
The Red Force's fatal error was underestimating their opponent. They mistook a prepared, patient defense for an easy victory.
Understanding these doctrinal lessons is our mission at Tactical Command USA. Thank you for joining this analysis.